Welcome to the Blue Ocean Solutions podcast, where we feature conversations with innovators and business leaders driving progress in clean tech, construction, and the renewable energy sectors. Our guest today is Alex Heide, founder and CEO of Heide Contracting from the Atlanta, Georgia area. Today, we're going to discuss his unique value proposition of supporting his clients to get the space they need without losing the character they love. When I first heard the solution, it was so simple and yet so creative. If you're a residential contractor, you're going to love the show. It's truly an example of innovation. Welcome to the podcast, Alex.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself and explain your role in the business that you have?
Yeah, so my name's Alex Heide, as you just said. So I'm the founder CEO of Heide Contracting. We're a construction company here in the Metro Atlanta area. We've been here for the last 6 years, and what we have is a very creative way of kind of changing what is a traditional home.
Fantastic. And so when you say a creative way, share the details with us. We're
Yeah.
on a cliffhanger.
So with most traditional remodels, you've got this idea of like, hey, if I need more space, you buy that beautiful starter home that you have, especially if you bought it 5 years ago, you're locked in at like a 2.5%, 3% interest rate. And it's this perfect home for you when you bought it, but now you got 2 kids and you're like thinking about moving, but you've developed so many roots in the area, you want to make the house bigger, right? And there's your traditional ways of, hey, let me rip my house down, build a bigger one, or maybe add a second story if you didn't already have a second story or a backyard addition. But there's a lot of cities in the US, Atlanta is one of them, where you can't just tear the house down because of historic reasons, or you can't go up because of historic or other zoning laws. So what we do is we go down. So most of the houses here in the Southeast are built on like a crawl space, which is like a 2 to 3 foot opening that you can crawl around in, hence the name crawl space. So we take that and we'll actually go down with it, creating a basement that's either 1 or 2 stories deep without affecting any of the original structure of the home. And you get to sit on the same footprint. So your backyard stays beautiful. All of that stays beautiful, but you get that extra space in the house.
Amazing. So how did you come up with this idea? Like what led you to discover this as a unique value proposition for the marketplace?
So rest of my family is all still in Europe. So we were over there visiting my brother who's in London. They have they have a really dense city. Most of the homes are townhomes or row style homes where they can't go up, they can't do anything. And they're 400 or 500 years old, so you're not allowed to tear them down. So it's very popular over in London and other capitals of Europe to go down. And he took me over to his boss's house who had gone down 8 stories underground. They had a pool at the bottom level. And I just saw that and I was like, this is crazy, but it's such a clever idea that, we're not doing in the States. It was just something that doesn't happen here. When I came back from that trip, which was 8 years ago now, I realized I'm like, man, this is an excellent opportunity to do something different in kind of the construction industry. And Atlanta turned out to be a really great market for that.
It's so great. When we spoke earlier, you kind of mentioned that has the zoning or the policy or so the regulations always been this way that really limited the scope of being able to add on renovations and expand the square footage of a place? Or have those regulations kind of come in more recently to try to maintain character homes? And then the solution became even more, innovative because it was really responding to the changing times.
Yeah, I mean, over the last probably 10 years, at least here in Atlanta, they've really started tightening down on a lot of that. So I can think of a couple communities inside of Metro Atlanta. One of them is called Druid Hills, another one's Decatur, where they've pretty much put a cap on you can't go up. You can't even change the front facade of the house. So if that house from the street looks like a 1 story house, it needs to stay looking like a 1 story house no matter what you do. So what they're doing is they're building these houses that kind of extend to the backyard and just keep going, going, and going and make these really long, kind of odd houses, but they look great. Um, and then, on top of that, they've really started doing a lot more control over non-permittable surface, which is basically how much of your lot you can build on. So there used to be no regulations on that for most of Metro Atlanta. And now they made it where it was 55% and now it's 45%. And they keep changing all these little things like that. That's making it harder and harder to modify your house in the traditional ways. Like I'm saying, go up a second story or build out or do an addition in the backyard. it's become a lot more challenging to do that for sure.
How do you see this unique idea solution fitting into the larger trend of eco construction or environmentalism or innovation when it comes to building in a better way?
I think a lot of it comes into the fact of just not having to tear down the house or not having to create so much disruption to have what you really want as a homeowner. One of the things for me is like seeing people, the construction industry is extremely, generates a lot of trash. It generates a lot of debris, a lot of waste, and you consumes massive amounts of energy. So this idea of being able to take a house that is already existing, not modified in any way, the structure itself, and then just going down to get that extra square footage, to get that extra space. I think that's a huge benefit in terms of the waste generated. But then also when you're doing any sort of expansion downward, right? The earth is staying at a certain temperature. Basements are always nice and cool, especially like you get the hot Atlanta summers here that we're known for. Um, that coolness down in there, it helps keep the house a little bit cooler. We have worked with geothermal companies to kind of integrate that into what we're doing to help make the house itself more efficient as well.
That's fantastic. So, when you started to present this idea to the marketplace, what was the response from potential clients? How did you find your first clients? How did you build the case studies from there?
So that was actually huge challenge. Finding our first clients was more of like I think my very first client was just somebody that we essentially bumped into and started talking about it. And they had a crawl space, was getting a bunch of water in there. And they were like, oh, I would spend anything to have a real basement. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see how this works. And just kind of essentially developed a really proprietary process on how to do this like again and again and again based on that first experience. But then when we saw that, hey, wait a second, we know this, there's a lot of houses here that are on crawl spaces. How do we market them? How do we get them to even know we exist? Because one of the challenges is with anything that you want, that you can think about it traditionally in your head, like, hey, I want a new kitchen. You're gonna hop on Google, you're gonna type in, whatever it is you'd like, or you'd ask, AI, say, hey, well, who's the best kitchen contractors in Metro Atlanta? And you can search it and it comes up. One of the biggest challenges with us was this idea of a crawl space conversion and digging down isn't something that people didn't even thought was a possibility. So nobody's Googling it. Nobody's hopping on their computer and going, how do I make a basement under my house? Because they just thought it was impossible. So I'd spent a ton of money on like Google ads and like keywords and all that. Didn't work. What we ended up doing was we took some time and recorded like good videos and like quick little clips that we could show on social media, and then really fine tuning who is our ideal customer and how do we market to them on their social media feed. And that's ultimately what got us is we started getting in these social media feeds. We were able to then refine our customers even more to the point that, now we're running about a 2-year backlog. And we still have people calling in, essentially every day, new leads coming in. So I'm very happy with what we've been able to do there, but we had to actually create that product awareness and then market ourselves as the experts on it.
I think it's fantastic. It's a real like entrepreneur's journey, right? Knowing you have value, but how to position it correctly in the marketplace. So today, do you still rely on, it sounds like social media, word of mouth referrals? Is that still what's filling up the pipeline?
Yeah, so it's a lot of social media. One thing that we've started doing over the last year is being hyper local in these community events. So, for example, there's a small neighborhood here. It's called Grant Park, and they have a tour of homes, a candlelight tour of homes every year. So we sponsor a house, and we get our branding up on that, and we get to leave some pamphlets there. Or there's another music festival. It's in a small, and when I'm talking about I'm not talking about a town. I'm talking about like maybe 10 streets, like a small little neighborhood, and we embed ourselves there where we know that neighborhood has the right amount of what's the word for it? Like household income. And the houses are all mainly on crawl spaces. And the people are very happy in their community. Generally, when they're having these little community events, I know that everyone that's going to that are people that don't want to leave. So by marketing in there, we've seen a huge uptick of the exact client that we want.
I love it. You're really in touch with your marketplace and the value that you're offering. So from there, Let's expand. You had mentioned that you're busy for 2 years booked out. So what does Heide Contracting or look like right now? What's the size of it? What are you guys doing? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the business side.
Yeah, so I mean, we're still, I guess, a small business, right? So our revenue for this month is on, or not this month, this year is on track for just under 7 million. So we're very excited about that. That's a big deal. As far as an org structure goes, you've got myself, I've got two project managers, I've got basically a sales team or inspection team of three, and then we have crew leaders that make up our teams, and we have five crew leaders at the moment, and they have their own guys. And then we still employ a good amount of subcontractors as well on top of that. So, I mean, all in all, we've got our core team and our subcontractors are adding up to people that are working for us pretty much nonstop for probably that number is about 45 to 55 right now. So, yeah, and I mean, we try to run the business as embracing as much technological advances as we can. So it's like having a good CRM software, which so many builders don't use, making it easy for like an intake form and stuff on when the lead comes in, and having it like SOPs processes for every single step of the way. Whereas if I have to step out and I disappear for a month, the business keeps functioning because we follow the SOPs.
With a team of 50 people, how do you manage the internal movements? Because I would imagine you have the dig team, then they're handing off to another team, and then, it's one team to the next. So how is that all, yeah, flowing through your business and keeping the communication lines open and clear?
Well, so having the CRM, obviously that kind of helps us with like the customer management, and there's some project management there. The CRM we use is not fully there to be like a true project management. So we still use kind of the traditional project management side of things, like doing, team meetings once a week, making sure that each team is in communication with the team that's coming after them so that they can be aware of challenges and stuff that's going on, and kind of having that community of guys that, hey, we each have our own unique role in this, but we're working together for the goal.
What I've noticed is it's great teams that build businesses. And so with you scaling and being built out, booked up 2 years out, obviously you've got a great organization, a great team. So talk a little bit about the leadership and how those roles flow together.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that is always a bit of a challenge is figuring out like the best leader to be, right? And you can read all the books and you can read everything that there is out there, and half of them will say one thing and the other half will say not to do that thing. So it's been a fun experience, but that's why I really kind of rely on the people that I've hired, and like finding the really good quality people we're working together, because I want to be able to trust them fully. And I think in with a lot of other businesses, they kind of mess up where they don't put enough faith in the person. Like if I can't trust that person to operate, then he's really not the right person for the role. So I mean, as far as like how we manage, we've got myself and then these two other project managers together. The three of us manage. We break out the projects that are happening and we manage those projects. We kind of have our group. I'm responsible for six. Someone else is responsible for seven. The other guy's got five. And we still do a stand up call every morning, the three of us, and just kind of roll through everything that's going on, so that if one of us does have a family emergency, we just had one of my project managers had to leave on Friday because his mom had to have emergency surgery. But I knew everything that was going on with this project because we were still having those little stand up meetings in the morning. And it's only taken us like 15 minutes to run through everything. So that's one of the things that really, I think, helps us stay on track to make sure that all the gears keep turning.
And then how does that translate for the customer? What would the customer experience be when dealing with a business that's so well communicative and also organized?
One of the things that we do get a lot of um, compliments from our customers, and some of them to me are very bizarre. Like my favorite one is that, oh, you guys are so amazing. You show up every day. And I was just like, I'm always taken aback at them. What do you mean we show? Like, is that a surprise? We told you we were going to be here. Of course, we're going to show up every day. But then it also goes a little bit further than that, like that level of communication, like always there when they need us, being able to be a individual person, like the projects that I manage, all of those clients, they have my cell phone. I always have a little speech when we start the project and say, hey, this is going to be a high stress situation for you. We're working on your house. That's just part of it. If something happens in the middle of the night or something pops up in your mind, on a Saturday or Sunday, just shoot me a text. I said, if I got a second, I'll call you. We'll talk through it. I'd rather you reach out to me as soon as you feel a little bit of anxious about something than sit on it for, 3 or 4 days until we happen to bump into each other at the job site. So really trying to create a customer experience that is unique, especially against the traditional contractor, um, I guess like the reputation that we all have, right? Or we all have, yeah, contractors have that, he's going to show up. He might be gone the next day. He's going to charge me half as much. He might smell like, drugs or alcohol or something like that. Although my guys, we're all clean cut. We always uniforms. We're here to show up and work and leave. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure you're happy with everything.
That's amazing. Take it one step further. I'm sure you've got dozens and dozens of great case studies of people that you've served and, have really transformed their vision of what they wanted to have at the place that they fell in love with. Do you mind sharing one of those stories?
Yeah. So there's a couple that are actually some of the most amazing people. And they live in a suburb of Atlanta called Buckhead, and they have two amazing kids, and they're that house that all the kids go to. So, I'm sure you, when you were young, I know I did, you had that one house that everyone hung out at. All the bikes were out in the street in front, that's this house. And they added a pool in the back, and they made the house perfect for them. And the one thing that they realized, though, is they didn't have a space for the kids to be kids, as they put it. They wanted a place where when all the kids are there, they're not just in the living room, which was also, it's an open concept house. So the living room, kitchen, main floors all together. Well, if the parents are hanging out and the kids are there, they're all on top of each other. So they were like, we really want to create a space that'll make this house absolutely perfect to us. And they'd already spent a good bit of money with the pool and all this other stuff to really make, let's say, the ground level exactly what they wanted. So they came to us and we ended up excavating out their crawl space. We added about 1,400 square feet underground, and we were able to create that as one very large room. So we created this, essentially huge space down there purely for entertainment. It's set up for the kids. It's set up for, pool table, ping pong table, 100-inch TV on the wall, and being able to take this house that they really loved. They loved their neighbors. They loved everything about where they were. And then adding that like final aspect to it that made it absolutely perfect for them was like one of my favorite experiences. I remember going down with them after we poured the concrete, and it feels real when, there isn't dirt anymore. And they were just walking around going, wow. And it was just this kind of like, for me, when we do it every day, you forget how unique it is for the actual customer and that experience that they're going through. And they were just so thrilled. They were just so thrilled. And they're telling all their friends. And we got probably 15 referrals out of them alone. But with that, we left them with that, additional space in the house, but then adding another 1,400 square feet to that property where it was located added a significant amount of value to the actual home itself. A lot of people today, they're looking for houses that are basements, where they're worried about hurricanes or tornadoes and stuff like that. So houses that don't have basements, it's one thing realtors tell us all the time is like, hey, we're looking for a basement. We're looking for a basement. So adding this basement to the house added the value to the home significantly increased. And that increase was actually more than what it cost for us to do the project. Yeah, because we try to make sure that whenever we finish a project, the equity gained from completing the project is more than what the project itself cost.
I love it. I bet your customers and clients are probably thrilled with that approach. So things seem like they're working really well on your business. If you were to talk about the trends that are happening right now in the world, ones that are supporting or potentially working against you, where do you see some of those major trends fitting into your business right now?
Well, I always joke around that I'm the only one that hopes that interest rates will stay high. So like one of the trends that we see is that, people are locked in at these low interest rates on their home. It might not have been the perfect home when they bought it, but now that they look at it, the cost of moving, the cost of getting a new mortgage and all of that, they're going to make the house perfect for them. So like, that's one thing that's really benefiting us is that, hey, we've got these, the interest rates are staying high. People are wanting to renovate. I'm seeing that pretty much everywhere across the board. I think one of the things that we're dealing with that I'm sure everybody else is dealing with, finding the good labor or the good people out there. That's still proving to be relatively challenging. I don't know where we would be if I could just wave a magic wand and I could have another 30 guys. We'd be doing significantly more work than we are now. And, that's one of the reasons why our backlog is what it is it's that challenge of finding people that I can trust and count on that work within our community or inside of our company as we have it.
That's great. I would imagine then as you look forward, you mentioned what's working and what's the challenge. Where do you find yourself dealing with either some bottlenecks or frustrations as you continue to scale and grow?
I think, one of the frustrations, definitely, I wouldn't call it a bottleneck, but a frustration is turnover. Bringing in somebody, making sure that they're well taken care of, getting them set up, getting them feeling confident in it. Then, for whatever reason, half my guys keep moving to different states, different places. Like it's not like they're jumping jobs; they're very happy, but they're like, "Oh, I need to go move to California, or I need to go move to Virginia, or something like that." So it's been pretty frustrating to have people that you're like in your mind as a business owner, you're like, this guy is my next project manager. He's amazing. He's smart. He's brilliant. He knows how to handle things. And then he walks in on Monday and is like, hey, I'm moving to Virginia. And in my mind, I'm immediately like, all right, how am I going to start a company in Virginia just to hire this guy? But so that's a bit of that's a big frustration for me. I'd say is bottlenecks go, the bottleneck or like the limitation we have is manpower, which I kind of already talked about, but then also the equipment side of things. Because as we're doing these projects, all of our machinery is electric, circling back around to that green aspect of it, like all of our excavators, conveyors, uh, see any of the machinery we use on the job site is either battery operated or plug-in electric. So that equipment itself is relatively rare. It's relatively hard to get a hold of, and it's expensive. Most of what we get comes from Europe. And the scalability cost. It's not like if I wanted just a traditional home builder and I wanted to build more houses, all I had to do was find more people to build those houses per se. Whereas, like if I want to start a new excavation crew, I'm investing $200,000 to $300,000 in the equipment to get it up and going. So as it sits right now, that is one of our bottlenecks or one of the things that's kind of holding us back a little bit. This year we've scaled significantly, and we have a plan for next year to scale as well. Where I'm confident we have a good plan, but it is definitely a bit of a bottleneck.
Well, I'm sure the contractors and people familiar with development in our audience will relate to your two challenges there. One being replacing good people. You want them just to stick around and, then you can really manage your scalability. So I feel for you there. And secondly, yeah, investing in the right equipment to be able to deliver everything in-house can be expensive. So I'm sure that's a reality that many contractors experience themselves as they look forward in their business. As we look forward in your business, where do you see yourself? Let's talk it out. Like next 6, 12 months, what are your strategic priorities and where would you like to be in a few years?
Yeah, whenever I hear that question, I immediately just think of like revenue. I used to work in a corporate job, and that's like how everything ties back to revenue. By the end of next year, we're at a little over 10 million in revenue. A little bit further down the road, I probably want to get us kind of sitting good at around 15. And it's just one thing that I've seen in like a lot of other businesses is that allows it to where I can afford the overhead of having a good management team that doesn't involve me uh, being involved in everything every day. Because speaking for myself, I want to get this to a good point and then kind of step out of it and focus on something else. I have a lot of passion about what we do, but there's all these other ideas and stuff that you kind of want to work on after the fact. So, one of the things is we have a good office now. I'm definitely going to need to get us a bigger office, which will probably be sometime next year to facilitate all of this additional growth that we have.
I think those are great goals. So basically, you want to double the size of your company in the next 2 years or so to get close to 15 mil. What needs to, if you looked at where you are right now and you could wave that wand that you mentioned earlier, what would need to be fixed so that you're on pace to get there?
We still have some processes that need to get dialed in, and pretty much some stuff around like cash flow. Just being any business owner will understand that when you're doing as much project as this or as much revenue as this, making sure that the money aligns with everything you're outspending. I think that some stuff that we figured out over the last couple months. I've brought in a couple good friends of mine that are business owners that have done large scale businesses like this to far higher than I ever want to see, 50, $100 million businesses, and kind of brought them in and shown them everything. They've pointed out some very things that were clear to them that, when you're down in the weeds or you're just trying to make the business work every day, you don't see it. But when somebody just walks in and just looks over everything, they're like, oh, well, you're messing up your cash flow, or you're putting out too much up front. You're spending too much of your money up front before, the customer's taking the time to pay you back, essentially. Like correcting those and pointing those things out to us has allowed us to start seeing things today that are fixing problems that I've been struggling with for the last 2, 3 years. So, I think really kind of getting out, I guess maybe the better way to say it is to get out of the way, for me to get out of the way and like really let the people that I've got at the top either show me that they want to grow with me, or find the right person that's working alongside me to be that person that kind of wants to push me aside and say, all right, I got this. I got this. Because today it's still involving a lot of time and energy from myself.
I think you speak the story of a lot of successful business owners that from the outside, people must be like, oh, wow, they got a great business. Everything's going well. And then the inside being like, well, yes, but I also have new levels of challenges, new levels of problems. I think it's really great, Alex, that you've reached out to potential mentors, but people who are more experienced and more successful than you, and asked them to come into your business and seek help. That's really what I've noticed over the years of really successful owners and CEOs, people who are willing to, they have an idea, they have a vision, they don't jump around, they stay the course, but they bring other people in to verify their assumptions, to take a look at what's happening, and they're willing to adjust if new information comes across their seat. Whereas some owners and some CEOs never allow that opportunity to come in. So I think you're in a really strategically awesome place to continue to grow over the coming years. I think what you guys are doing is very innovative and creating a real value proposition for your local community. And I hope that expands into several communities, because I know there's definitely other people out there that would really benefit from this. As we move towards the end of the show, why don't you, if you have any final words to say, please share with the audience. And I'd also include in that, if you have where people can get a hold of you, if they'd like more information, if they'd like to get on your wait list, or they just want to follow you guys and see the incredible work you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I could say like a closing moments, one of the things that was instilled in me by my father, which was always figure out a way to make things work. Like, be creative, never say no to something, figure out a way where others say, this can't be done, figure out the path forward. And that's something that we've instilled heavily into Heide Contracting. So not just through the crawl space conversions, but all of the projects we do. We do a lot of steel erection, and a lot of other renovation projects that kind of bring out that ethos. But that being said, if you want to check out some of our videos, you can look up Heide Contracting on YouTube. You can also go to www.heidecontracting.com, which I'm sure there might be a link somewhere in this note or something. But feel free to reach out to us. All of our estimates and everything we do are free. So come out, let us come out and take a look at your project, and we can figure out a way to make your space perfect for you.
I love it. Yes, as Alex mentioned, all of the details will be in the show notes. If you have enjoyed the show, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with somebody that might be interested in building a crawl space to really expand the love for their home in a creative way. Alex, thank you so much for being on the podcast.